The notification ping at 2:47 a.m. should have been my first warning that this night would destroy everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and the woman I was supposed to marry in 12 hours. I was sitting in my cramped apartment above the design studio, trying to fix a loose button on my rental tux, while nursing my third beer and fighting off the pre-wedding jitters that had been gnawing at my gut all week. Jack Morrison, small-town entrepreneur, about to marry the girl of his dreams. Or so I thought. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My phone buzzed again. Another message in what appeared to be a group chat I'd never seen before. The contact name read Maggie's Bridesmaids, and I definitely wasn't supposed to be in there. Tessa accidentally added Jack LOL, the first message read. Someone kick him out before he sees anything. But it was too late. I was already seeing everything. My fiancée Maggie's voice came through in the next message. Wait, no, let me tell you guys what happened at dinner tonight. Jack was being so clingy and desperate. I literally had to fake a headache to get away from him. I stared at my phone screen, the cold beer suddenly tasting like ash in my mouth. This had to be some kind of joke. We'd had a beautiful dinner at Romano's just 4 hours ago. She'd held my hand across the table and told me she couldn't wait to be my wife. Girl, you're a saint for going through with this, came another message from someone named Ashley. I would have run screaming by now. The things we do for financial security, Maggie replied, followed by 3 crying, laughing emojis. My hands started shaking. Financial security? I'd built my graphic design business from nothing, working 16-hour days for 3 years to give her the life she wanted. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. More importantly, I thought we were happy. At least Brett knows how to treat a woman, Maggie continued. Did I tell you guys what he did yesterday? He booked us a suite at the Marriott for next weekend. Says he can't wait until I get this wedding nonsense out of the way. Brett, her boss at the law firm, the smooth-talking partner who'd been texting her at all hours for the past 3 months. She'd told me it was just work, important cases, urgent deadlines. You're so bad, Ashley responded. Poor Jack has no idea his bride-to-be has been getting her back blown out by her boss. The phone slipped from my numb fingers and clattered onto the hardwood floor. I sat there in the dim light of my desk lamp, staring at the wall where I'd hung a photo of Maggie and me from last Christmas. She was laughing at something I'd said, her head thrown back, looking genuinely happy. Had any of it been real? I picked up the phone with trembling hands. The messages kept coming. The best part is how grateful he is for everything, Maggie wrote. Like when I let him take me to that fancy restaurant last month. He was practically glowing because he thought he was spoiling me. Meanwhile, Brett had already taken me there twice. You're terrible, came a message from someone named Jessica. But honestly, Jack's kind of boring anyway. Remember at Sarah's birthday party when he just sat in the corner nursing 1 beer all night? Right? Brett would have had the whole place buying him drinks and telling stories. Jack just exists. He's like a piece of furniture that pays bills. I stood up abruptly, knocking over my beer bottle. The amber liquid spread across my desk, soaking into the wedding planning papers we'd spent weeks organizing together. Seating charts, vendor contracts, timeline schedules, all of it suddenly meaningless. But I kept reading. I couldn't stop myself. The worst part is the sex, Maggie had written. It's like being intimate with a golden retriever. All enthusiasm, no skill. Thank God Brett knows what he's doing. The room spun around me. 3 years together. 3 years of her telling me I was amazing, that she'd never been happier, that I was everything she'd ever wanted in a man. All lies. Are you really going through with the wedding? Ashley asked. Of course. Brett's not ready to leave his wife yet, and I need the stability. Jack's predictable, he worships me, and he'll never cheat, because he thinks I'm out of his league. It's actually perfect. What about the honeymoon? Please, I'm getting food poisoning on day 2. Brett's meeting me in Cancun on Thursday. Jack can spend the rest of the week at the resort bar feeling sorry for himself. I grabbed the edge of my desk to steady myself. The woman I'd been planning to spend my life with had turned me into a joke. Not just to her, but to all her friends. How long had they been laughing at me? How many dinner parties had I attended where they all knew the truth except me? Then came the message that broke something fundamental inside me. You know what's really funny? This was from Tessa, Maggie's maid of honor and best friend since college. Jack thinks he's so smart because he caught me skimming money from the accounts at Morrison and Associates 3 years ago. Got me fired from my dream job. But look who's getting the last laugh now. My blood turned to ice. Tessa had been embezzling from my business when she worked for me as an accountant. I'd discovered she was stealing client payments and funneling them into personal accounts. I'd fired her and reported it to prevent her from doing it to someone else. It was the right thing to do, but it had destroyed her career in our small town. Wait, what? Maggie responded. You think this whole thing with Brett just happened naturally? Girl, I've been setting this up for months. I introduced you two at the office Christmas party. I'm the one who suggested you apply for the job at his firm. I even made sure you two got paired up on that big merger case. Tessa, what are you saying? I'm saying your boring fiancé ruined my life, so I decided to ruin his. Brett was easy to manipulate. Just had to stroke his ego and point him toward the prettiest married woman in the office. You were even easier. Just had to convince you that you deserved better than Jack's middle-class lifestyle. The messages kept coming, each one hitting me like a physical blow. You've been planning this for 3 years? Maggie asked. Every single detail. The late-night work sessions that turned into drinks. The business trips where you and Brett happened to be booked in the same hotel. The girls' nights where I filled your head with doubts about Jack. I've been playing puppet master, and tomorrow I get to watch Jack's face when his perfect little world falls apart. But I actually have feelings for Brett now. Even better. That just makes the performance more convincing. I set the phone down carefully on my desk and walked to the window. Outside, the small college town of Millbrook was quiet and peaceful. Street lamps illuminated empty sidewalks where I'd walked hand in hand with Maggie hundreds of times. The church where we were supposed to get married in 10 hours stood silhouetted against the night sky, its steeple pointing toward stars that suddenly seemed cold and distant. For 3 years, I'd been living in a carefully constructed lie. My fiancée was cheating on me with her boss. My ex-employee had orchestrated the entire thing as revenge for me doing my job. And tomorrow I was supposed to stand at that altar and promise to love and cherish a woman who thought I was nothing more than a reliable paycheck with no personality. I picked up my phone and scrolled back through the messages, screenshotting everything. The photos, the cruel jokes, the detailed plans for humiliating me on what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. They thought I was stupid. They thought I was weak. They were about to learn how wrong they were. I opened my laptop and started typing. If Tessa wanted to play puppet master, she was about to discover that some puppets know how to cut their own strings. At 6 a.m., I was standing outside the Kinko's copy center, waiting for them to open with a manila folder containing 200 copies of the group chat screenshots. I'd spent the last 3 hours organizing them chronologically, highlighting the most damaging parts, and creating a neat little package titled Wedding Day Surprise, What the Bride Really Thinks. The teenage clerk who opened the store looked at me suspiciously. I probably looked like hell, unshaven, wearing yesterday's clothes, with the kind of wild-eyed intensity that comes from having your entire world collapse in a single night. "You okay, man?" he asked as I handed him my flash drive. "Never better," I replied, and for the first time in hours, I actually meant it. The initial shock and heartbreak were crystallizing into something much more useful: cold, calculating rage. While he printed my documents, I sat in my truck and made a list of every wedding guest, their hotel rooms, and their phone numbers. Maggie had insisted we create a detailed contact sheet for emergencies. She'd been so proud of her organizational skills. By 7 a.m., I was driving through the parking lot of the Hampton Inn, sliding manila envelopes under the doors of every guest room. My parents, her parents, the bridesmaids, the groomsmen, our college friends, her co-workers. Everyone who was supposed to witness our special day would get a very different kind of show than they'd expected. I saved the best package for last, Brett Morrison's room. Yes, the bastard had the same last name as me. One of those coincidences that Maggie used to say was destiny. I knocked on his door instead of sliding the envelope underneath. He answered in a hotel bathrobe, his hair disheveled from sleep. "Jack, what the hell are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be getting ready?" I handed him the envelope with a smile that felt like broken glass. "Wedding gift. Make sure you read it before the ceremony." His confusion was beautiful. "What is this?" "The truth. Something you might want to discuss with your wife when she wakes up. By the way, she's in room 237, right? I made sure she got a copy too." The color drained from his face as he tore open the envelope and saw the first page. "Jack, wait. I can explain." "No need," I said, backing toward the elevator. "It's all explained very clearly in there. Enjoy the show, Brett. I know I will." The elevator doors closed on his panicked expression, and I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Pure, undiluted satisfaction. My phone started ringing as I drove back to my apartment. Maggie's name flashed on the screen, but I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again, and again. By the time I parked, I had 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. The voicemails were a beautiful progression from confusion to panic to desperate pleading. "Jack, where are you? People are saying weird things about some papers you left. Call me back." "Jack, this is insane. Whatever you think you saw, we need to talk about it. Don't do anything crazy." "Jack, please, I love you. Whatever's in those papers, it's not what it looks like. Tessa is lying about everything. She's trying to break us up." The last one was just sobbing. I deleted them all and opened my laptop. Time for phase 2. I created a new email account and composed a message to every person on our wedding guest list. "Dear friends and family, due to circumstances beyond my control, today's wedding has been canceled. I've recently discovered that my bride-to-be has been having an affair with her boss, and along with her maid of honor, has been planning to humiliate me at the altar as part of an elaborate revenge scheme. I know this sounds unbelievable, so I've attached documentation of their own words describing their plans. I apologize for any inconvenience this may cause, but I'm sure you'll understand that I cannot marry someone who thinks I'm like a piece of furniture that pays bills. The reception venue has been paid for, so please feel free to enjoy the food and drinks. Consider it a celebration of my escape from a toxic relationship. Sincerely, Jack Morrison P.S. Tessa, if you're reading this, checkmate." I hit send and leaned back in my chair. My phone was buzzing constantly now, but I ignored it. Instead, I opened a bottle of bourbon and poured myself a drink. It was 9 a.m., but I figured I'd earned it. The pounding on my door started around 9:30. I could hear Maggie's voice, high and desperate. "Jack, open the door. We need to talk about this. People are calling off the wedding." I turned up my music and poured another drink. The pounding got more frantic. "Jack, please, I made a mistake, okay? I never meant for any of this to happen. Tessa manipulated me." Now that was interesting. Throwing her best friend under the bus already? I walked to the door but didn't open it. "Go away, Maggie. You've got a big day ahead of you. Don't you have a hotel room to get to with Brett?" "That's over. I told him it was over. I choose you, Jack. I've always chosen you." I laughed, and even I was surprised by how bitter it sounded. "You chose my bank account. There's a difference." "That's not true. I love you. You love my predictability. You love that I worship you. You love that I'll never cheat because I think you're out of my league. Your words, Maggie, not mine." The pounding stopped. I heard her slide down the door, crying. Part of me, the part that had loved her for 3 years, wanted to open it and comfort her. But that part was dying, replaced by something harder and colder. "Jack," she whispered through the door, "I know I hurt you. I know I said terrible things. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can start over." "No," I said simply. "We can't. Because this isn't about the affair, Maggie. It's about the fact that you think I'm boring. It's about you planning to fake food poisoning on our honeymoon. It's about you and your friends laughing at me for 3 years while I worked my ass off to make you happy." "I never laughed at you!" I pulled out my phone and read directly from the screenshots. The worst part is the sex. It's like being intimate with a golden retriever. All enthusiasm, no skill. The crying got louder. Here's another good one. Jack just exists. He's like a piece of furniture that pays bills. Stop it. Poor Jack has no idea his bride-to-be has been getting her back blown out by her boss. Stop! I opened the door then, and she looked up at me with mascara running down her cheeks, still in her pajamas. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "You want to know the really funny part?" I said, crouching down to her level. "I actually thought I was the lucky one. I thought I'd somehow convince this amazing, beautiful woman to settle for a boring guy like me. Turns out I was right. You did settle. The only question is why I should be grateful for that." She reached for my hand, but I pulled back. "Jack, please." I was confused. I was scared of commitment. Tessa filled my head with all these doubts about whether you were really right for me, and I let her because part of me was terrified of being ordinary. "So you decided to cheat instead? That's your solution to feeling ordinary?" It wasn't supposed to mean anything. It was just excitement. Something different. But I always planned to stop before the wedding. I always planned to choose you. I stood up and looked down at her. "You planned to choose me after you got it out of your system. How generous." "Don't be like this. This isn't you." "You're right," I said. "The old me would have forgiven you. The old me would have gone to counseling and worked through this, and probably spent the rest of his life wondering when you'd get bored again. But the old me didn't know what you really thought of him." I started to close the door, but she grabbed the frame. "What about everything we built together? What about our plans, our future?" "You mean my plans that you were going along with until something better came along? Yeah, I'm good without those." "So that's it? 3 years and you're just going to throw it all away?" I looked at her for a long moment. This woman I'd thought I knew completely. "Maggie, you threw it away the moment you decided I wasn't enough. I'm just cleaning up the mess." I closed the door and locked it. She pounded for another few minutes, then I heard her footsteps retreating down the hallway. My phone buzzed with a text from my business partner, Bob. "Dude, what the hell is happening? Your wedding guests are posting screenshots on Facebook. This is insane." I texted back, "Just getting started." By noon, the story had gone viral on local social media. Someone had posted the screenshots to the Millbrook Community Facebook page, and the comments were brutal. 3 years of being the nice guy, the reliable boyfriend, the man who fixed everyone's computers and never asked for anything in return. Apparently, that had earned me more goodwill than I'd realized. "I always thought Jack was too good for her," wrote Sarah Chen, who bartended at Murphy's pub where I was a regular. "This is disgusting," posted my neighbor, Mrs. Henderson. "That poor boy worked so hard to give her everything she wanted." Even people I barely knew were weighing in. "I've bought designs from Jack's company. He's one of the most honest, hardworking people in this town. She never deserved him." But the real entertainment came from watching Maggie's friends try to do damage control. Ashley had posted, "There's always 2 sides to every story. Maybe we should wait to hear Maggie's version before judging." The responses were swift and merciless. We did hear her version. She said he was boring and bad in bed. What's her side? That she was just pretending to cheat? Found the other bridesmaid? I was enjoying the show when my phone rang. Unknown number. "Jack Morrison? Speaking. This is Detective Williams with Millbrook PD. I need to ask you a few questions about some harassment complaints we've received. My blood ran cold. Harassment? Can you come down to the station? We can do this easy way or the hard way. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in an interrogation room across from a tired-looking cop who seemed like he'd rather be anywhere else. So, Detective Williams said, opening a folder. I've got complaints from Margaret Collins, Brett Morrison, and Tessa Martinez claiming you've been harassing them, distributing private communications without consent, stalking, making threats. Did they mention the part where they were planning to humiliate me at my own wedding? He sighed. Look, Jack, I get it. I've been married 23 years. If my wife did what yours did, I'd want revenge too. But you can't go around distributing people's private messages. That's illegal. Is it illegal to forward messages that I was accidentally included in? Messages where they discussed defrauding me and destroying my reputation? Williams flipped through some papers. According to the law, yes. Those messages were sent with an expectation of privacy. What about conspiracy to commit emotional distress? What about planning to defraud me by taking my money under false pretenses? What about the affair itself? Isn't that breach of contract since we had a pre-engagement agreement about fidelity? The detective looked surprised. You had a written fidelity agreement? Maggie insisted on it. Said she wanted us both to be clear about expectations. It's notarized and everything. Williams made a note. I'll need a copy of that. But Jack, here's the thing. Even if what they did was wrong, that doesn't give you the right to break the law in response. So they get to destroy my life, but I can't defend myself? You can defend yourself through proper legal channels. Get a lawyer, sue for breach of contract. But this vigilante justice thing you're doing, it's going to land you in jail if you keep it up. I leaned back in my chair. Am I under arrest? Not yet. But I'm warning you. Stay away from all three of them. No more surprise visits. No more public humiliation campaigns. No more distributing their private communications. You understand? Crystal clear. He stood up. For what it's worth, I think they're garbage people. But being garbage isn't illegal, and what you're doing is. Don't make me arrest you over this. I shook his hand and left the station, but my mind was already working. They wanted to play the legal game? Fine. I knew someone who could help with that. Marcus Webb had been my roommate in college before he went to law school. He specialized in contract law and had a reputation for being absolutely ruthless when someone tried to screw over his clients. More importantly, he owed me a favor from when I'd designed his entire firm's branding for free. Jack Morrison, he said when he answered my call. I was wondering when I'd hear from you. Half the internet is talking about your wedding disaster. I need a lawyer, Marcus, a really good one. You've got one. Come to my office. We need to talk. An hour later, I was sitting in Marcus's downtown law office, watching him read through the screenshots and the fidelity agreement Maggie had insisted we sign. This is beautiful, he said, grinning. She actually put it in writing that infidelity would constitute breach of contract with financial penalties, and you've got documented evidence of premeditation, conspiracy, and intent to defraud. What can we do with it? We can destroy them, legally and completely. He leaned forward. Jack, this isn't just about the affair. Tessa admitted to orchestrating this as revenge for you reporting her embezzlement. That's criminal conspiracy. And Brett? He's a lawyer who knowingly participated in a scheme to defraud you. That's grounds for disbarment. I want them to pay. They will. But we're going to do this right. No more vigilante justice. We're going to use the system to crush them so thoroughly that they'll wish you'd just punched them in the face instead. Marcus spent the next 2 hours outlining our strategy. Breach of contract suit against Maggie for the fidelity agreement violation. Criminal conspiracy charges against Tessa. Ethics violations against Brett with the State Bar Association. Civil suits for emotional distress, defamation, and fraud. This is going to take months, he warned. Maybe years. Are you prepared for that? I've got nothing but time. Good. Because when we're done, they're going to be broke, unemployed, and possibly in jail. Still want to go through with it? I thought about Maggie crying outside my door that morning. I thought about Brett's panicked expression at the hotel. I thought about Tessa's smug confession about manipulating my entire relationship. Let's destroy them. Marcus smiled. Now you're talking my language. 3 weeks later, the legal machinery was in full motion, and I was discovering that revenge served through proper channels was far more satisfying than anything I could have done on my own. Marcus had filed a breach of contract suit against Maggie for $50,000, the amount specified in our fidelity agreement for infidelity, plus damages for wedding expenses, emotional distress, and loss of consortium. Her lawyer had tried to argue that the agreement was unenforceable, but Marcus had done his homework. The contract was ironclad. She's going to have to sell her car, Marcus told me over lunch at Murphy's pub. Maybe her condo too. Her lawyer says she can't afford a prolonged legal battle. Good, I said, taking a sip of my beer. What about Brett? Oh, Brett's having a much worse time. The State Bar Association is very interested in his conduct. Turns out, using your position as a law firm partner to seduce married employees while conspiring to defraud their spouses is considered conduct prejudicial to the administration of justice. English, please. He's going to be disbarred. No law firm will touch him after this. His wife filed for divorce last week, and she's going after everything. The house, the cars, his retirement accounts, even his golf club membership. I couldn't help but smile. And Tessa? Tessa's the real prize. The DA's office is pursuing criminal conspiracy charges based on her confession in those text messages. She admitted to orchestrating a multi-year scheme to defraud you emotionally and financially. That's a felony. Will she actually go to jail? Probably not. First offense, white-collar crime, she'll likely get probation and community service, but she'll have a criminal record, which means her accounting career is over. No firm will hire someone with fraud convictions. I raised my beer. To the legal system. To the legal system, Marcus agreed, clinking his bottle against mine. But the legal victories were just the beginning. The real satisfaction came from watching their lives unravel in real time. Brett had been forced to resign from his law firm to avoid them firing him for cause. His wife had frozen all their joint accounts and changed the locks on their house. I'd heard from Sarah the bartender that he was living in a motel on the outskirts of town, drinking heavily and telling anyone who'd listen that I'd destroyed his life over nothing. Maggie had moved back in with her parents after losing her job at Brett's firm. Apparently sleeping with your boss and then having it become public knowledge wasn't great for office morale. Her mother had called me twice, begging me to drop the lawsuit, but I'd referred her to Marcus. Tessa had it worst of all. The criminal charges meant she couldn't leave the state while awaiting trial. Her new employer had fired her immediately after the charges were filed. Her landlord had evicted her when she couldn't make rent. She was working at a grocery store and living in her sister's basement. But I wasn't done yet. I want to buy Brett's house, I told Marcus during one of our weekly strategy sessions. He looked up from his legal pad. Come again? His wife is selling it in the divorce. I want to buy it. Jack, that's petty and expensive. I can afford it. Business has been booming since this whole thing started. Apparently, being the victim of a cheating scandal is great for publicity. Everyone wants to hire the guy who got screwed over. Marcus shook his head. What are you going to do with a 4-bedroom house? I'm going to renovate it and flip it, make it beautiful. Then I'm going to sell it to a nice young couple and use the profits to take a vacation somewhere warm. You realize he'll have to drive past it every day on his way to whatever job he manages to find? I'm counting on it. 2 months later, I was the proud owner of Brett's former dream home. It was a beautiful colonial with a 3-car garage and a swimming pool located in the most prestigious neighborhood in Millbrook. Brett's wife had been so eager to sell and get out of town that she'd accepted my offer immediately. I hired a contractor and spent the next 3 months turning it into a showcase. New hardwood floors, updated kitchen, renovated bathrooms, professional landscaping. I even had a sign made for the front yard: Morrison Design and Renovation, turning disasters into dreams. The best part was watching Brett drive slowly past the house every few days, staring at the improvements I was making to the home he'd lost because he couldn't keep it in his pants. Meanwhile, the legal cases were progressing beautifully. Maggie's lawyer had tried to negotiate a settlement, but Marcus had advised against it. "She needs to face the full consequences," he said. "If you settle now, she learns that actions don't have real repercussions. What if she declares bankruptcy? Then she declares bankruptcy. But the judgment will follow her for years. Every time she tries to get a credit card, buy a car, rent an apartment, this will come up. She'll never escape what she did to you." The criminal case against Tessa was moving forward too. Her public defender had tried to get the charges dismissed, arguing that emotional manipulation wasn't the same as fraud, but the DA wasn't buying it. She admitted to a deliberate multi-year conspiracy to cause you emotional and financial harm, the prosecutor had explained to me. That meets the definition of criminal conspiracy under state law. But the real victory came when Brett was officially disbarred. The State Bar Association had found him guilty of conduct prejudicial to the administration of justice, dishonesty, fraud, deceit, and misrepresentation. His law license was revoked permanently. I celebrated by having dinner at the most expensive restaurant in town, the same place where Maggie had told me she was getting food poisoning during our honeymoon. The irony was delicious. 6 months after the wedding that never happened, I was putting the finishing touches on Brett's renovated house when I got an unexpected visitor. Maggie was standing on the front porch, looking thin and tired, wearing clothes I recognized from 2 years ago. "Hello, Jack." "Maggie, you're not supposed to be here. Restraining order, remember?" "I know. I needed to see you, to talk to you." I set down my paintbrush and really looked at her. The woman who had once been the center of my universe looked broken. Dark circles under her eyes, hollow cheeks, hands that shook slightly when she spoke. "You look terrible," I said. "Thanks. You look good. Success suits you." It was true. The past 6 months had been the best of my professional life. The publicity from the wedding scandal had brought in more clients than I could handle. I'd had to hire 3 new employees and move to a bigger office. I was in the best shape of my life, had more money than I'd ever had, and was genuinely happy for the first time in years. "What do you want, Maggie?" "I want to apologize, really apologize, not just the desperate stuff I said that first morning. I want you to know that I understand what I did to you, and I'm sorry." "Okay, you're sorry. Is that it?" She looked around at the renovated house, at the success I'd built from the ashes of our relationship. "I heard about the lawsuits, about Brett losing his license, about Tessa's criminal charges." "What about them?" "Don't you think you've punished us enough?" I laughed, and it wasn't a pleasant sound. "Punished you? Maggie, I didn't punish anyone. I just stopped protecting you from the consequences of your own actions. You destroyed our lives." "No, you destroyed your lives. I just made sure everyone knew about it." She started crying then, the same desperate tears I'd heard through my apartment door 6 months ago. But this time, they didn't move me at all. "I lost everything, Jack. My job, my home, my friends. I'm living with my parents at 32 years old. I can't get hired anywhere because everyone in town knows what happened." "That sounds like a you problem. I made a mistake, one mistake, and you've spent 6 months making sure I pay for it every single day." "One mistake?" I stepped closer to her, and she backed up against the porch railing. "Maggie, you didn't make a mistake. You made a series of deliberate choices over several months. You chose to have an affair. You chose to mock me to your friends. You chose to plan to humiliate me at our wedding. You chose to let your best friend manipulate our entire relationship as part of some revenge scheme. I was confused. I was scared. And I was faithful. I was loyal. I was working my ass off to build a life with someone who thought I was a piece of furniture that paid bills. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. So this is it? This is your revenge? Destroying everyone who hurt you? This isn't revenge, Maggie. Revenge would have been me sleeping with your sister and posting the videos online. Revenge would have been me burning down your car or beating the shit out of Brett in a parking lot. This is justice. Justice? You wanted to see what would happen if the boring, predictable guy you were planning to marry turned out to be smarter than you thought. Well, congratulations. You found out. A car pulled up to the curb, and Brett got out. He looked even worse than Maggie, unshaven, wearing a wrinkled shirt and stained pants. The confident lawyer who had seduced my fiancée was gone, replaced by a broken man who looked like he'd been living in his car. Great, I said. The gang's all here. Where's Tessa? Community service, Brett said, walking up the driveway. Picking up trash on Highway 9. How poetic. Brett looked up at his former house, at the improvements I'd made, at the life I'd built from his downfall. You happy now, Jack? You've destroyed all of us. Feel good about yourself? Actually, yeah. I feel great. We came to ask you to stop, Maggie said. The lawsuits, the public humiliation, all of it. We've learned our lesson. Have you? What lesson is that? That we were wrong, Brett said. That we hurt you, and we're sorry. No, I said, shaking my head. That's not the lesson. The lesson is that actions have consequences. The lesson is that you can't treat people like garbage and expect them to just take it. The lesson is that sometimes the quiet guy in the corner is quiet because he's thinking, not because he's stupid. So you're going to keep coming after us? Forever? I'm not coming after anyone. I'm just living my life and letting the legal system handle the rest. If you don't like the consequences of your actions, maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to destroy my life for fun. Maggie looked around desperately. What do you want from us? What would it take for you to forgive us and move on? I considered the question seriously. You want to know what I want? I want you to understand that this isn't about forgiveness. This isn't about moving on. This is about the fact that you thought you could use me and discard me without consequences. We never meant... You meant every word. You meant every laugh. You meant every cruel joke at my expense. The only thing you didn't mean was getting caught. Brett stepped forward. Look, I get it. We fucked up. But this has gone far enough. You've won. You've proven your point. Have I? Because you're standing here acting like you're the victims. You're acting like I did something wrong by defending myself. You didn't just defend yourself, Maggie said. You went nuclear. You could have just broken up with me and moved on. Right. I should have just quietly disappeared and let you all keep laughing at me. I should have protected your reputations while you destroyed mine. That's not what we meant. That's exactly what you meant. You wanted to cheat, lie, and humiliate me without facing any consequences. Well, guess what? Life doesn't work that way. I started walking toward my truck. You two need to leave. You're violating the restraining order, and I'd hate for you to add more legal problems to your collection. Jack, wait, Maggie called after me. What if I could make it right? What if I could fix this? I turned back to her. How? You going to uncheat? You going to unsay all those things about me? You going to give me back the 3 years I wasted thinking you loved me? I did love you. No, you loved what I could do for you. There's a difference. That's not true. Maggie, you literally said you were marrying me for financial security while planning to cheat on me during our honeymoon. In what universe is that love? She had no answer for that. Here's what's going to happen, I said, getting into my truck. You're going to live with the consequences of your choices. You're going to rebuild your lives from the ground up, just like I had to do. And maybe, if you're lucky, you'll learn something about treating people with basic human decency. I started the engine and rolled down the window. Oh, and Maggie, next time you want to destroy someone's life, make sure they're actually as stupid as you think they are. I drove away, leaving them standing in the driveway of the house that used to be Brett's, in the neighborhood they used to think they belonged in, facing the future they'd created for themselves. In my rearview mirror, I watched them get smaller and smaller until they disappeared entirely. 1 year after the wedding that never happened, I was sitting in the backyard of my new house, a beautiful Craftsman I'd bought in the historic district, grilling steaks and enjoying a beer with Marcus and Sarah from Murphy's Pub. "So what's the final tally?" Sarah asked, flipping through the local newspaper's business section, which featured a full-page article about my company's expansion. "Maggie settled the breach of contract suit for $38,000, Marcus said, taking a swig of his beer. "She had to liquidate everything: car, condo, jewelry, even her grandmother's china set." "Harsh," Sarah said, but she was smiling. "Brett's completely broke," I added. "Lost his house, his cars, his law license, his wife, his kids' college funds. Last I heard, he's working at a car dealership in Springfield, trying to rebuild his life from scratch." "And Tessa?" 6 months probation, 200 hours of community service, and a permanent criminal record, Marcus said. "She's working at a gas station and living in a trailer park outside of town. Turns out, orchestrating revenge conspiracies doesn't pay as well as she thought it would." Sarah raised her beer. "To justice served cold." "To justice served exactly the right temperature," I corrected, clinking bottles with them. The truth was, I felt better than I had in years. My business was thriving. I'd bought and successfully flipped Brett's old house for a massive profit, and I'd learned something valuable about my own strength. I wasn't the pushover they'd thought I was. I wasn't the boring, predictable guy who'd just quietly accept being used and discarded. "Any regrets?" Marcus asked. I thought about it seriously. About the lawsuits? No. About the public humiliation? No. About spending a year of my life making sure they faced consequences for their actions? Not even a little bit. "What about Maggie? You loved her for 3 years." "I loved who I thought she was. The real Maggie, the one who thought I was furniture that paid bills. I never loved her at all. How could I? I never knew her." My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Jack, this is Maggie. I know I'm not supposed to contact you, but I wanted you to know that I'm moving to Denver next week. Fresh start. I just wanted to say that I understand now why you did what you did, and I don't blame you anymore. I hope you're happy. You deserve to be." I showed the text to Marcus and Sarah. "You going to respond?" Sarah asked. "Nope. She's right. She's not supposed to contact me. And honestly, I don't care where she goes or what she does with her life. That chapter is closed." I deleted the message and put my phone away. "So what's next for Jack Morrison?" Marcus asked. "I'm thinking about expanding the business to other towns. Maybe franchise the whole operation. Turn Morrison Design into a regional brand." "And personally?" "I'm dating someone new. Rebecca from the coffee shop downtown. She's smart, funny, honest, and she thinks I'm interesting instead of boring." "How do you know she's not just pretending?" I laughed. "Because I'm not the same guy I was a year ago. I'm not desperate for approval anymore. I'm not grateful just to be tolerated. If someone doesn't appreciate what I bring to the table, they're welcome to eat somewhere else." "Look at you," Sarah said. "All confident and self-assured. It's a good look on you." "Thanks. Turns out, surviving betrayal and coming out stronger is great for the self-esteem." We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sun set over the town where I'd been born, where I'd built my business, where I'd been betrayed, and where I'd ultimately triumphed. "You know what the best part is?" I said finally. "What's that?" "They thought they were so smart. They thought they had me all figured out. Boring Jack, predictable Jack, grateful for any attention Jack. They never considered that maybe I was just choosing to be nice, not incapable of being anything else. And when you stop choosing to be nice, they found out what I'm really capable of." Marcus grinned. "Remind me never to get on your bad side." Just don't cheat on me and we'll be fine, I said, raising my beer one more time. To the new Jack Morrison, smarter, stronger, and significantly less forgiving than the old model. To the new Jack Morrison, they echoed. As the stars came out over Millbrook, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction that had nothing to do with revenge and everything to do with justice. I'd been tested in the worst possible way, and I'd passed. I'd been betrayed by the people closest to me, and I'd survived. I'd been underestimated by everyone who thought they knew me, and I'd proven them all wrong. The old Jack Morrison would have forgiven them, would have tried to understand their motivations, would have blamed himself for not being enough. The new Jack Morrison knew better. Some people don't deserve forgiveness. Some actions don't deserve understanding. And sometimes, the best thing you can do for everyone involved is make sure that bad behavior has real, lasting consequences. I'd given them exactly what they'd earned, nothing more and nothing less. And if that made me the villain in their story, I was perfectly fine with that. After all, every hero needs a good villain. I was just returning the favor.